The night sky was dark and heavy with clouds. The storm had no mercy. Snow fell like endless arrows from the heavens. The land was empty, white and cold, a place where no one should walk alone. Then it happened. A light split the sky, brighter than lightning, louder than thunder. Something was falling, burning, tearing through the clouds. The ground shook as the object crashed into the frozen forest, leaving smoke and fire behind. Inside the broken ship, a young alien princess opened her eyes. Her skin was pale like snow, her hair silver white, shining even in the dark. She looked human, but there was something otherworldly about her eyes. They glowed softly with blue light. She tried to rise, but pain shot through her body. Her armor was cracked, her ship destroyed, and her strength fading. The cold air bit her skin like knives. She had never felt such bitter cold before. On her world, storms were gentle. Warm winds carried life, not death. But here, the snow was a monster that wanted to swallow her whole. She whispered to herself, "I will not survive this place." Her voice was weak, her hands trembling. She looked at the sky, but there were no stars, only clouds and endless storm. Her people were far away, her signal lost, her hope gone. Time passed slowly. The storm grew worse. The princess curled against the broken wall of her ship, trying to keep warm, but the fire was dying, and her body shook with each breath. For the first time she felt true fear, a fear not of battle, not of enemies, but of death by cold silence. Then she heard it, footsteps crunching in the snow, steady and strong. Her heart jumped. Was it one of her hunters, the ones who wanted her alive, or something else, something worse? Out of the storm came a figure, a human man, wrapped in thick winter clothes, his face hidden by frost. He was carrying a torch that burned bright against the diesel. Arc night. He stopped when he saw the wreck, his eyes wide with shock. He had never seen a ship like this, never seen a being like her. The princess tried to rise, but she collapsed, her voice breaking. "Help, please," she whispered, her alien accent soft, almost human. The human did not run. He did not hide. He walked closer, step by step, the snow crunching louder. He saw her pale face, her glowing eyes, her cracked armor. She looked weak, fragile, but also beautiful, like a star fallen to earth. He bent down, pulling off his heavy coat, and wrapped it around her. "You'll die out here," he said simply, his voice calm but firm. The princess looked up at him, shocked. This stranger was not afraid, not curious, not greedy. He was only kind. Her body relaxed as warmth touched her again. She felt safe for the first time since the crash. She could not understand why a human, a simple man of this frozen world, would risk himself for her. But she felt something powerful in that moment. Not the strength of weapons, not the power of machines, but the strength of humanity. The storm howled around them. The wreck groaned under the weight of snow. But inside the human's coat, the princess felt the fire of life again. And for the first time she thought, maybe I will not die tonight. The storm screamed outside, but inside the cave, the fire spoke with a softer voice, crackling, warm, alive. It pushed back the cold that wanted to kill them both. The human had carried the alien princess through the snow, step by step, his strength almost broken, but he refused to stop. He refused to leave her behind. Now she sat close to the flames, her silver hair glowing in the firelight, her pale face filled with shadows. The coat he had given her wrapped tightly around her small frame. Her armor lay on the cave floor, cracked and frozen, no use against this world. She looked at the human with tired but curious eyes. He worked in silence, feeding wood into the fire. His breath came out in white clouds, his hands rough and red from the cold, yet he moved with calm skill, as if he had done this 100 times before. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but strong. "You should rest," he said. "The storm will not stop tonight." The princess tilted her head, her voice weak but sharp. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you save me?" Her words carried both pride and confusion, for on her world, strangers did not risk their lives for others. Her people had power, armies, ships, but none would help someone they did not know. The human looked at her for a long moment, then shrugged. "Because you need help," he said simply, as if that was enough. She blinked, her glowing eyes reflecting the flames. In her heart, she could not understand, but a strange warmth grew stronger inside her. Outside, the storm beat against the rocks. The wind howled like a hungry beast, and in the distance, hidden by snow and darkness, something else moved. The hunters had arrived, machines with red eyes scanning the land, searching for their lost prize. The princess felt it before she heard it. A shiver ran down her spine. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human frowned, looking toward the cave entrance. What is coming? He asked, his hand tightening around a simple wooden spear. Not men, she said. Machines, hunters. They will find me. They will not stop. Her voice was filled with fear, but also with guilt. She had brought danger to this world, danger to the one who had saved her. She pulled the coat tighter, wishing she could stand, wishing she still had her power. The human listened carefully, his eyes narrowing. He was no soldier, no warrior of great kingdoms, yet his face was calm, his body steady. If they come, he said slowly, we fight. The princess gasped, shocked at his words. You do not understand. They are not of your kind. They are stronger, faster, merciless. But the human only shook his head. I don't care what they are, he said. You are not alone anymore. The fire flickered higher, shadows dancing across the cave walls. The princess stared at him, her heart beating faster. This human was strange, more strange than any alien she had met across the stars. He had nothing, no armor, no weapons, no power, yet he had given her warmth, safety, and hope. Outside, the storm grew louder. The sound of engines mixed with the wind. The hunters were closer now, red lights flashing in the white darkness. The princess shivered, her strength still weak. But when she looked at the human, standing ready with only a spear, she felt a strange truth. Maybe this fragile man of snow and fire was stronger than all the armies of her world. Maybe this was why humans survived where others failed. And as the first shadow moved outside the cave, she knew the night was far from over. The storm was fierce, but the sound outside the cave was louder than the wind. A low hum, metallic and sharp, like blades cutting through the night. The human tightened his grip on the wooden spear, his eyes fixed on the cave entrance. The princess sat close to the fire, her body weak, but her glowing blue eyes wide with fear. They are here, she whispered, her voice trembling. The human gave her a quick glance, his jaw set, his breath steady. Stay quiet, he said. Stay near the fire. The flames danced on the walls, but even their light could not push back the fear that crept into the cave. Through the storm, red lights appeared, glowing like demon eyes in the snow. Metal figures moved with perfect steps, their bodies tall and cold. They were not alive, but machines built for one purpose, to hunt, to capture. The princess felt her chest tighten. She had seen them before, and she knew they would never stop. The human crouched near the cave entrance, his spear ready. He had no armor, no gun, nothing but courage, and the land he knew so well. His breath was slow, his eyes sharp, like a hunter waiting for the right moment. The snow howled outside, hiding his scent, hiding his heat. One of the machines stopped near the wreck of the ship, its red eyes scanning the broken metal. It made a sound like grinding stone, and another answered from deeper in the storm. The princess gripped the coat tighter, her body shaking. They will find us, she whispered. They always find me. The human turned to her, his voice calm. Not tonight, he said. Not while I'm here. Something in his tone made her heart beat faster. She could not understand this strength, this stubborn fire in someone so fragile. The first machine moved closer, its feet pressing deep into the snow. It scanned the ground, its red light sweeping like a blade. Then it paused, turning toward the cave. The princess gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. The human motioned for silence. He pressed himself against the stone wall, waiting. The machine stepped closer, its shadow stretching across the cave entrance. The fire crackled behind them, giving away their warmth, their life. With sudden force, the human lunged. He drove the wooden spear straight into the glowing red eye. The machine screeched, sparks flying into the snow, its body thrashing. The storm swallowed the sound, but the other hunters turned their heads, their lights flashing red. The princess stared in shock. This human had no weapon of power, yet he had struck like a storm itself. She felt a spark of hope, small but alive. Perhaps he was more dangerous than the hunters believed. The broken machine collapsed in the snow, its light fading, but the others were moving now, faster, closer, their steps shaking the frozen ground. The human pulled back into the cave, his chest rising and falling with heavy breath. They know, he said, his voice low. They're coming for us. The princess swallowed hard, her hands shaking. She wanted to rise, to fight, but her body betrayed her. I cannot help you, she said, her voice breaking. The human looked at her, his eyes firm. Then you live, and I fight, he answered. The firelight touched his face, showing no fear, only determination. The storm outside roared like an angry god. The hunters' shadows grew larger, their red eyes glowing brighter. The princess felt her heart race, torn between fear and awe. For the first time, she realized the truth. The machines were powerful, the storm was deadly, and she was weak. But the human, standing with nothing but a wooden spear, was stronger than them all. And as the hunters closed in, she whispered softly to herself, "Humans are not what they seem." The cave shook as the hunters drew near, their heavy steps echoing like drums in the storm. The human grabbed a small bag of supplies, then turned to the princess, his voice quick but steady. "We cannot stay," he said. "They will burn this place." The princess nodded weakly, her body still fragile, but her eyes filled with fear and trust. He helped her to her feet, wrapping his coat tighter around her. The fire behind them died, leaving only smoke. Snow rushed in through the cave mouth, sharp and bitter. The world outside was white, endless and merciless. The human led her into the storm, each step heavy, each breath like knives. The princess stumbled often, her strength fading, but the human pulled her forward, never slowing. Behind them, the red lights of the hunters pierced the snow, moving with deadly precision. They did not feel cold. They did not tire. They would never stop. The mountain path was steep, sharp rocks hidden beneath the snow. The human knew these trails. He had walked them many winters before, but tonight was different. Tonight the storm carried death with every gust. Still, his eyes stayed clear, his hands steady, his mind focused only on survival. The princess looked at him, her breath shaking. "You know this land," she said softly, struggling to keep pace. "Yes," he answered. "The snow is my home." His words were simple, but to her, they carried the weight of a kingdom. The wind screamed, and far below, the burning wreck of the ship glowed faintly. The hunters searched the crash site, their red eyes sweeping like fire across the frozen dark, but one by one, they turned toward the mountains, following the faint trail left in the snow. The chase had begun. The human stopped for a moment at a narrow ridge. He looked around, studying the cliffs, the trees, the sharp rocks buried under ice. To him, every shadow was a tool, every stone a weapon, every path a chance. To the princess, it was only chaos and danger, she whispered, her voice breaking through the wind. "You cannot fight them all, not with wood, not with fire." He glanced back at her, his face cold but his eyes burning. "Then we run, and we make them bleed with the land itself," he said. The storm grew wilder, covering their footprints quickly. Yet the hunters were fast, their heavy machines crushing through snow and ice with ease. The human pulled the princess along, his body bending against the wind. Every muscle ached, but he refused to stop. The princess stumbled again, falling to her knees. He knelt beside her, lifting her back up with strong arms. She looked at him, her lips trembling. "Why do you not leave me?" she asked. "I only slow you down." He shook his head, his voice sharp. "A human does not leave someone to die." The words hit her heart harder than the storm. On her world, power ruled, weakness was abandoned. But here, in this frozen land, weakness was carried, protected, and made strong. She looked at him with new eyes, filled with something she could not name. A sound cut through the storm, a hunter's roar. They were close, closer than before. The human grabbed her hand, pulling her behind a wall of jagged stone. He crouched low, his breath slow, his eyes fixed on the red glow in the snow. The machine moved past, scanning the ridge, its lights cutting through the darkness. The human pressed her close, his body shielding her from view. For a moment, time froze, the storm holding its breath. Then the hunter turned away, its heavy steps fading into the storm. The human released a long breath, his voice calm but urgent. "We must keep moving, higher into the mountains." The princess nodded, her heart pounding, her eyes never leaving his face. The storm howled again, but now, to her, it felt less like death and more like a test. And as they climbed deeper into the white wilderness, the princess whispered to herself, almost in awe, "Perhaps the snow obeys him, not me." The storm had turned wild, snow blasting across the mountains like waves of white fire. The human and the princess moved slowly through the deep drifts, their bodies heavy with cold. Behind them, the hunters were closing in, red eyes glowing like burning coals in the darkness. The chase could not last much longer. The storm was their shield, but it was also their prison. The human stopped at the edge of a frozen ravine. His eyes studied the land, sharp and calculating. To anyone else, it was only ice and rock, but to him, it was a weapon waiting to be used. He turned to the princess, his breath hard and fast. "Stay close," he said, "and do not make a sound." The hunters spread across the snow, their heavy bodies crushing trees and stone. Their searchlights cut through the storm, turning the world white and red. The human crouched low, his spear in hand, his eyes fixed on the nearest machine. He knew he could not kill them all, but he could buy them time. The first hunter stepped onto the frozen ravine, its metal feet cracking the surface. The human waited, silent, hidden by the storm. Then, with a sharp motion, he hurled his spear. The wooden shaft struck the ice, not the machine, but the ground itself. The crack spread like lightning. The ice beneath the hunter split open, the sound echoing like thunder. The machine screeched as it fell into the dark water below, sparks bursting in the snow. The storm swallowed its cries, leaving only silence and the rushing river beneath the ice. The princess gasped, her eyes wide with awe. "You used the land," she whispered, her voice trembling. The human only nodded, pulling another sharpened stick from his pack. "The storm is my ally," he said. "The snow is my weapon." But the victory was short. More hunters emerged from the storm, their red lights brighter, their steps faster. The human pulled the princess back, leading he. Or higher up the mountain, the storm whipped at their faces, but the machines never slowed. Another hunter leapt forward, its claws digging into the ice. The princess raised her hand, her armor still faintly glowing. A spark of alien power shot from her palm, striking the machine's chest. It staggered, sparks flying, but it did not fall. Her strength broke, and she collapsed to her knees. The human rushed forward, standing between her and the advancing machine. He gripped his spear tight, his body shaking but his eyes fierce. The princess looked up at him, tears mixing with snow. "You cannot fight it," she cried. "You will die." The human did not answer. He charged, his voice echoing like thunder against the storm. The machine swung, claws slicing the air, but the human moved with speed born of desperation. Rolling under its strike, he drove his spear upward into a joint of metal. The machine howled, sparks flying, its arm jerking wildly. The spear snapped, the human thrown back into the snow, yet the machine stumbled, its red light flickering weakly. The princess crawled forward, her hand glowing once more. She pressed it against the broken joint, releasing the last of her energy. A blast of light tore through the machine, splitting it apart in a burst of fire. The storm swallowed the explosion, leaving only ash and silence. The human rose slowly, his body bruised but alive. He looked at the princess, her face pale, her body shaking. "You still had power," he said softly. "Not enough," she whispered, her voice weak. "Without you, I would be gone." They sat together in the snow, the storm raging around them. 2 hunters destroyed, but more still out there, their red eyes glowing in the distance. The human touched her shoulder, his voice firm. "We can win, but not by strength alone." The princess met his gaze, her heart heavy but burning with new fire. For the first time she believed in him, not in his weapons, but in his will. And as the storm roared louder, more shadows moving closer, she whispered, "Perhaps the hunters should fear the storm, because it fights with you." The storm began to calm, the hunter's red eyes fading into the distance. The human and the princess found shelter beneath a ledge of rock, a small hollow shielded from the wind. A weak fire burned between them, its light soft, its heat barely enough. But for the first time since the crash, there was silence. The princess sat close to the flames, her silver-white hair damp with melted snow. Her pale face was tired, her eyes dim, but still glowing faintly blue. She looked at the human, studying him, as if he were more alien than herself. "You are not afraid of death," she whispered, her voice soft but heavy. The human leaned back against the stone, his face lit by firelight. "Everyone fears death," he answered, "but fear is useless if it stops you from fighting." His words struck her like arrows, simple yet sharp. She had traveled across the stars, yet she had never heard truth spoken in such plain form. The fire crackled, and for a moment, the storm outside felt distant. The princess lowered her gaze, her voice trembling. "There is something you must know," she said. "I am not only a traveler, I am hunted because of who I am." The human said nothing, waiting, his eyes steady. "I am the daughter of a ruler," she continued, "a princess of the House of Silver Flame." Her voice grew harder, filled with sorrow. "My people live far away, across the stars, in a kingdom of fire and metal, but it is not safe. Not even for me." She touched her broken armor, her hand shaking. "I fled," she whispered, "because they wanted me for my blood, my power, my name." She closed her eyes, her body trembling as if the words themselves were heavy chains. "The hunters were sent to bring me back, alive, so they can use me as a weapon, a key to control worlds." Her voice cracked, the truth spilling like ice water. The human stared at her, his jaw tight. "So if I take you," he said slowly, "my world will suffer too." The princess nodded, her eyes wet with unshed tears. "They will enslave it, just as they plan to enslave me." The fire hissed, smoke curling into the dark cave roof. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice like stone. "Then I will not let them have you," he said. His words were not shouted, but they carried the weight of a promise. The princess looked at him in shock. "No one has ever sworn to protect me," she whispered. "Not without reward, not without duty." Her heart raced, confused, warm. "You are only one man, yet you speak as if you can stop an empire." The human's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "I am only a man," he said, "but I am human, and that is enough." The princess felt her chest tighten. His words were madness, yet they burned with a fire she had never known. Outside, the storm began to fade, but a deeper sound rumbled in the distance. The ground trembled as lights appeared in the sky. Far above the mountain peaks, the enemy ship was arriving, larger than the wreck, glowing like a red star in the clouds. The hunters were only the beginning. The true danger was now here. The princess clutched the coat tighter, her body shaking. "They have come," she whispered, fear cutting through her voice. The human rose to his feet, standing tall against the glow in the clouds. "Then we fight," he said, his voice unshaken. The princess stared at him, her heart torn between fear and awe. For the first time, she wondered if this fragile man was not fragile at all. Perhaps he was something greater, something her people could never understand. Perhaps this was why humans survived, even against the cold and the stars. The sky burned red as the enemy ship descended through the storm. Its size was enormous, larger than any human village, its shadow swallowing the mountains. The snow shook with its landing, the ground splitting as metal legs touched earth. From its belly came an army of hunters, red eyes glowing in the storm. The princess held her breath, her body weak, her spirit trembling. She had faced this before, the power of her father's empire, the endless machines of war, but never had she faced it with only one ally, a simple man of snow and fire. She turned to the human, her voice breaking. "You cannot fight them. There are too many." The human's face was calm, his eyes steady. "Maybe I cannot," he said, "but I will try, because if I stand, they will not break me." He picked up what remained of his broken spear, sharpening it against stone. His breath rose like smoke, but his spirit burned hotter than the flames. The hunters spread across the snow, their searchlights sweeping the land. The human knew hiding was useless now, the storm no longer strong enough to cover them. He stood tall, his back straight, his body trembling, but unbroken. The princess stared at him, her heart torn between fear and pride. The first hunter charged, claws raised. The human dodged, sliding across the ice, striking with his spear at the weak joints. The machine fell, sparks flying, its red light fading into the snow, but more came. Faster, stronger, surrounding them like wolves around prey. The princess cried out, summoning the last of her power. A wave of blue light burst from her hand, striking two hunters, tearing them apart. But the energy drained her, her body collapsing into the snow. The human caught her, lifting her up with one arm, refusing to let her fall. The enemy ship roared, its guns charging. The human looked at it, his jaw set, his voice like iron. "This is our world," he whipped. "Spared, you will not take it." He turned to the princess, his eyes burning. "Your power may be fading, but mine is not." Confused, she asked, "What power?" Her voice weak. He smiled faintly, blood on his lips. "The power to never stop. The power to fight even when there is no chance. The power to be human." With those words, he set her down safely behind the rocks. Then he stood alone in the storm, facing the army. Each breath was pain, each step was heavy, but his spirit blazed like fire against the cold. The hunters rushed him, but he used the snow itself, rolling boulders, breaking ice, leading them into traps the land had prepared. He fought with his hands, his teeth, his will, and though they struck him, though blood covered the snow, he did not fall. The princess watched with tears in her eyes. She saw what machines could not see, what empires could not create. This man had no weapons, no armies, no power from the stars, but he had something greater, the unbreakable heart of a human. At last, the storm itself seemed to rise with him. Winds howled, ice shattered, the hunters fell one by one, the ship roared above, but even its fire could not crush his spirit. The princess crawled to him, her voice strong again. "Enough, you have shown them, you have shown me." She lifted her hand, her last spark of power burning bright. Together, her light and his fire struck the ship, tearing through its heart. The sky lit with blue and gold, the storm swallowing the machine in flames. Silence fell, the hunters gone, the ship destroyed. The human fell to his knees, his breath ragged, his body broken but alive. The princess held him, her tears warm against the cold. She whispered in his ear, her voice trembling with awe, "No weapon, no empire, no storm is stronger than a human heart." And as dawn rose over the frozen land, the princess knew the truth, across the stars too. Hay may call her royal, they may call her powerful, but here, on this world of ice, she had seen the greatest truth of all: humans are special.